Alright, so here we are. We're up at the pool area at the Ameristar, just kind of taking a break as we've already started a session. Actually showed up last night, went ahead and got some time in and stayed over. Went ahead and started off this morning. Up probably maybe like 500 on the trip or so between last night and this morning. Just playing a little 1-3 and otherwise goes really good. Games were plenty of action this morning, so really happy about that and just look to putting in a good day and a good session. Probably how, you know, the thought process when we just talk about poker, you know, from a strategy perspective, we have, you know, well-constructed ranges that we're working from, so we'll just kind of basically stay in those. Our execution will just basically kind of stay in a very solid mental framework that allows us to go ahead and just keep playing, you know, really, and maybe just to talk about that just a little bit further. You know, we feel that the strategy that we're starting from is dominant to the strategy that the other players in the pool are actually playing from. So we actually have a holistic strategy that we're working from rather than just having each individual hand show up and then be reactionary to it. So feel really good about that, and actually we're in a game where that strategy is actualizing itself, so we're actually winning chips with that strategy, so it's good to see that happen. A little swingy early, gave some action in some spots, so nothing really too bad, but thankfully the cards kind of went our way, so really happy about that. And then otherwise from a skill set perspective, just continuing to maintain solid fundamentals, math, just be observant to that and just kind of make sure that we include that in terms of our overall thought process from hand to hand. When we're playing 1-3, maybe the last element that I'll just throw out there is just going to be we're just looking to kind of accrue value from the merge that we're playing. So basically through every step of the hand, pre-flop all the way to rivers that we may see, we're just looking to, again, accrue value. So the chips that go in are either, you know, representative of the hand progressing along and our range is strengthening, or we're using parts of our range that strengthen against the actual boards that are there. And then otherwise, yeah, pretty straightforward. You know, given the fact that we are in a 1-3 spread limit 100 cap game, you know, you can only raise or bet 33 blinds in this spot. So if you try and polarize too often or too much or put people in tricky spots, they can just call, really, in a lot of cases. So that's what we're dealing with. But otherwise, yeah, we'll head down to the tables. It's starting to rain a little bit, actually. You can kind of hear there's some terrain and construction that's going on out there. So we'll go ahead and, you know, basically just kind of enjoy a little bit of time up here, a little break, enjoy a recorded video, and yeah, just kind of keep it going. So good luck us, and here we go.
Open. Hearts.
Open hearts.
Thank you.
Why don't think you invite one more?
I wish.
Happy.
35 kings.
You'd have happily stayed around for that.
Alright, so we're taking a little break. We actually just finished at one table and moved to another, so we'll talk about some of the, I think, more interesting hands that we played in our prior table. So from under the gun, we actually open up Jack 10 of hearts, Jack 10 suited, so that's going to be one of the weaker opens that we probably have in this spot, but given the lineup, it's okay. I mean, just as equally, we could probably go ahead and fold. Get a call out of middle position from a very action player, well known at the table. He's just going to give some action. So he goes ahead and calls, and then we go ahead and folds all the way around. We go ahead and see a flop. The flop comes out King 8-8 with 2 hearts. So we flop a flush draw and then runners to prospective straights. So 22 in the pot, and we go ahead and check it over. He goes ahead and bets 25. Now, he does have range advantage, I think, in this spot, because just as much as we could have a variety of kings, even pocket kings, he's just going to have more 8s. So I just think it's, again, the range advantage leans towards him, but we do have the flush draw, and then we do have some backdoor straight opportunities. So we go ahead and make the call for 25. So we go ahead and see a turn card, which comes off a non-heart 7. So our hand improves a little bit. We improve to a gut shot there. And he goes in and bets 50 when we check it over. So I think it's interesting from the standpoint of be very curious to what PIOSolver, kind of when we're doing the second cut of this, see what PIOSolver says we should do with our exact hand in this spot. Historically, when I've looked at this type of line work, it calls. It says a call because we do have the flush draw, and then we're just evaluating rivers, quite frankly, is all it comes down to. So we go ahead and make the call for the 50 on the turn, and then the river comes off the 3 of hearts. So we do make our flush draw and we check it over. I don't really expect this player to have a whole series of flush draws or could have better flush draws, but I just don't think it would happen. Likewise as well too, in checking it over on the river, I think it's consistent with the line that we have taken. I think really good kings will go ahead and make some sort of bet there. Eights, I think, obviously will too. And of course, full houses will as well too. You know, the driving strategy I think we have at this point is we're just letting players value on themselves against a much more dominant range, much more well-constructed set of ranges. So that being said, he does check it back and then goes ahead and we show the flush, and it's good. So we won a pot there, but I think I'd be curious to see what the line work comes from a PIOSolver perspective to say, was this correct, was this not? The next interesting hand, we go ahead and open up pocket kings under the gun, and then we get a call from middle position, the next player over. I was really happy with this actual lineup in the table, simply because we had two action players right next to each other. This action player does give action, but it's a little more value oriented than anything else. But I think kind of sort of as this hand indicates, she's capable of kind of value owning herself as well too. So we go to both kings, we get called, and then the flop comes out ace, king, 5, 2 spades. It's going to be the king of spades and then the 5 of spades that's on the board. So ace, king, 5, 2 spades. So we go ahead and flop middle set, consistent with kind of how we operate. Generally speaking, we're checking to the in position player. Yes, this board does have range advantage simply because it's easier for us to have all the good aces, ace, kings, pocket aces, so on and so forth. Now there's 22 in the pot based upon the $11 open and call. This player goes ahead and bangs 60 into the pot, so overbets the pot. It's one of the few times kind of in this cap limit structure that you can actually go ahead and do that. So it kind of has me taken back, what hands would she do this with? I don't think she has aces in this spot. It's definitely possible to have ace king, pocket 5s. Flush draws are mainly what I'm concerned about. So I go ahead and make the call, and really after kind of getting put on notice with respect to this exact bet size, my intent is really with pocket kings, my exact hand candidate in this spot. It's just, I'm just never folding, quite frankly, unless it comes running spades the whole way, where I don't have, obviously I don't have the spade at all. So the next card comes off relatively a blank, but it is a spade, so the front door flush does come in. She goes ahead, checks over to her, she goes ahead and bets 60 again. I pretty much just go ahead and smooth call at this point. I mean, obviously it looks like I have a lot of aces, or I'm bluff catching with an ace in this spot. And then the river card is a blank, does not bring a 4th spade, which is actually really nice, and she goes ahead and bets 100, which is the cap for that street. And I go ahead and resign myself to pretty much sticking with the strategy that I had. There's nothing really on the board. I kind of had a basic plan in terms of, if there was any point at which I would release. To this player, while yes, she is value oriented, again, it's just a spot where she ends up owning herself, simply because she does have pocket 5s. So her plan, best we can infer, was pocket 5s, pocket pair, make a set, and just go to value town against what is relatively a stronger range. But we end up having kings in this exact spot, so that was okay, and we actually scoop a nice one there. The third hand, that's what we're talking about here, was just kind of interesting. We are in the small blind, and there's a bunch of lippers. I think there's probably like 4 of them. We look down at king, queen of hearts, so king, queen suited, and we go and make it 26 to go. It goes ahead and folds around to the button, who then goes ahead and just makes it 128. So it's kind of an interesting spot with respect to the range construction, because I'll go and wait till this truck passes. Video edit here. It's kind of an interesting spot because with respect to king, queen suited, when it comes to basically stacking off, I could go ahead and actually call there, but the range that I have to go ahead and put this person on to go ahead and do that with would have to be, ace-X combinations that are suited, obviously not hearts, that would go ahead and my king queen base would be live against small pocket pairs, jacks and lower, that they'd be doing this with. And just really thinking about it, I just could not find any scenario where this was short of aces, quite frankly. And it's, the limp jam against a bet or open kind of thing. Maybe it was kings, and of course I'm dominated there. I'm dominated with queens, or I take that back. I'm live with the queen, but functionally dominated there as well too. with respect to how the equities and expectation would go for those hands. So I just go ahead and fall. We can look at that in PIOSolver real quick, perhaps, just in terms of pre-flop range construction and when you may or may not. But the real takeaway there is that this person does not have a balanced range, does not have a bluff range. So the best I can infer from kind of an old man coffee kind of situation, it's just going to be a value-based range. So those are probably, I think, the three main interesting ones. Definitely up on the session, which is great. We went and table changed into a new game. Now this table change does have a lot of new 2-5 players in it, so they're used to bigger bet sizes, slightly different than what we're playing in the 1-3. Completely not a problem, but it does change the game a little bit. And what I mean by that is probably the best way to say it would be the money that's really going to be made is strictly by just going to value town and just making great value hands and just, you know, betting for value, sometimes calling for value. There's really no polarization in terms of the bets that can be placed here, just because the sizes we use and then the cap. That's okay. So update from the garage. I'll hopefully in post I'll clean up kind of how that battery dying actually kind of screwed up what I was recording there. But to give an example of kind of how that 1-3 kind of quasi turned into a 2-5. A specific hand that was played went ahead and opened from early position with Jack-9 suited, Jack-9 of clubs, and opened to a sizing of 11, which is kind of the standard open there and fine for the game. And then from behind, I got 6 callers, so basically everyone just called from behind. And in the 2-5, that's pretty common actually, where you have multiple callers, even more so than just one or two. And mainly at that point, they all understand that calling from an early position raise, they can outflop, they can go ahead and just get lucky, all kinds of things. You know, there's a certain amount of protection that they all give themselves by calling in those exact spots. So that being said, Jack-9 is a little out of line from the standpoint of the, you know, from a candidate hand, from what I should be opening in that range in that spot. Not terrible, but I could just as equally kind of fold what I have there in my exact hand. So that being said, we see a flop. It is Queen rag with the Queen of clubs, which is actually the important card. So with basically $66 in the pot, it goes ahead and checks all the way around. I'm sure I mean, how can there not be a queen kind of playing for a deception there? So that being said, the next card that comes off is a great card. It's going to be the 10 of clubs. So basically we turn the open-ended straight flush, the up and down straight flush draw. So at that point I go ahead and bet small, I think like 25, 30 into the 66. We go ahead and get a call, and then you know, there's one caller way at the end. I think the button goes ahead and calls behind. We actually river the straight, and even though there's queens on board, we go ahead and bet, I think 40 on the end was the sizing that went ahead and used and got a fold. So kind of hard to say. Maybe there was a better flush draw that called, or a weaker flush draw that potentially could have called. You know, I can't imagine even the cagiest of queens not calling there on the river, but it could be possible. And then, of course, you know, part of my betting strategy there was, you know, I was going to get the bad news by a better hand, most certainly, but at the same time, given the fact I had the open-ended straight flush, I wasn't too concerned given the cap structure of the game. So we stayed in that game for a little while. It was a little sort of kind of a problem, so to speak. You know, I don't normally table select too hard in those games. I do look for good games, but at the same time, I had 4 extremely competent players to my left, and then I just had 4 dead spots absolutely to my right. So given that, I went in and changed into a new game, and we're kind of back into kind of, I think, a little more of what we expect out of the you know, the current game states that we have there. So cruising along, won some pots, and that's kind of the mid update. Probably going to cruise down to the buffet, see what's going on, or get some food, kind of figure out what's going on, what's happening, and yeah, we'll just go from there and keep grinding it up. Good luck us. All right, let's do it. So here we are, we're across the street at Golden Gates, basically just kind of wrapping up our session for the day. We played approximately 11 and a half hours, finished up 850 on the session, so let you do the math on that. Went ahead and moved one more table just because it was open. Some of the players had rotated out to go play a tournament here across the street. So there's kind of pretty much just locked up. The chips were moving at that point. So we tried a new table and it was pretty fresh. We ran into some players that were basically kind of bluffing in certain spots, and we just bluff catched from out of position, did well, chipped up a little bit further, but nothing too significant. So otherwise, really great session. I think the overall strategy of just having a set of, what would be the best way to say it, you know, a set of well-constructed ranges, and then taking an overall merge-oriented strategy where we have just accrue value out of the merge that we're performing with those exact hands. Works really well. We went ahead and, let me see here, we do run into some spots where some players will call with their draws, will bet their draws, improve, but we just have to navigate that as it comes up. I mean, and where doesn't that really happen at all? You know, or where does that happen everywhere, so to speak. So anyhow, just kind of running out of things to say. We're just going to wrap it up probably right here, walk back across the street, throw some chips in the rack, and head on back, and we'll just do it next time. So following this, we'll just jump into probably some PIOSolver stuff, and we'll take a look at most of the things we talked about in the recordings here. And otherwise, yeah, had a great day, good outcome, good result, enjoyable time, and away we go. All right.